Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. Fall ball around the corner. If you're looking for some extra play, there it is, Game7Baseball.com. Got the WAC going to be out there, Warrenton Athletic Complex. Got a good one down at Ballparks of America. Go check that out. So great stuff. Get your team signed up, get some extra swings as, you know, in between playing football, soccer, whatever you got going on. Game7Baseball.com. Today on the show, folks, on the Prime Sports Midwest call-in link, I have a special guest, a gentleman I got to meet at the PBR event in Kansas City this past winter. Steve Moritz from the San Diego Padres. He's a area scout for the San Diego Padres. Steve, man, I appreciate you taking the time coming on and chatting with us.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I was, we were chatting it up before, and we were talking a little bit about some stuff. And I want to lead this off this way because I think it's always interesting. You know, I don't know. You don't know. What does a scout do? And you always hear about the guy that scouts and whatnot. And, just kind of your experiences and give people a little bit of insight. I don't know that it's all that glamorous, right?
It can be a thankless job, but it's probably the best job on the face of the earth, to be honest with you. In my role, I'm an area scout. I cover 4 states, and that varies from team to team, scout to scout. Some guys cover, Southern California. Some guys have 5 states. Some guys have 2 states. So for my particular area, I've got Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Throughout my career, I've covered parts of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Florida. And so I've kind of been all over the place. And so I run 4 states, scout them up and try and get them signed.
There you go. We were talking about, I hope you don't mind, because I was reading this article, folks, before, just kind of seeing what's out there. And you scouted A.J. Brown, the wide receiver, now with A.J.'s with Philadelphia. At the time he's with the Titans. You scouted him as a high school baseball player.
We did. Yeah, we scouted him. It was my second year scouting. I was living in Atlanta, Mississippi, as part of my area. And AJ was a heck of a football player, obviously, but also a heck of a baseball player. And we scouted him up, and we ended up drafting him and signed him to a contract. And he's part of the Padres family. So to see him go on and do what he's doing in the NFL has been pretty neat, to be honest with you. And then, as a Chiefs fan, live in Kansas City, born and raised, to get that Super Bowl against them was also pretty fun to watch.
I gotta ask you this. Do you still see, because I saw some from the articles, and then it was just curious looking around. He has tweeted out, maybe I could play some baseball still, do the 2 sports. Yeah. Do you see anybody coming out in our day and age and doing that again?
Well, I mean, Kyler Murray is a great example of that. The kid that was at Oklahoma. He was a first-round draft pick from Oakland. Obviously, he's gone on to be, an NFL quarterback and signed that huge deal in Arizona. And then there are a lot of two-way players. The last one that I can really think of that I scouted besides Kyler was a kid named Cade Horton. Cade also was from Oklahoma and went and played football for a brief moment and then switched over to baseball. And ended up being a first-round draft pick by the Cubs and is knocking on the door to be a big leaguer. So it's not as common, recently, but it's still out there. Yeah, it's still out there. There's some two-way commits, two-sport multi-athletes that, There's one this year in Missouri. I'm sure we'll talk about the Jordan Martin kid that's a basketball player, and getting to know him and his family and watching them play basketball is incredible. So it's few and far between, but it's still a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen Jordan Martin, but Kevin Mulder from Prep Baseball,
Yeah.
he said this kid is just a phenomenal athlete. There's kids that are just jump off the floor, the field, whatever. They just go, you just kind of go, oh yeah, that's it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's that's one of the main things we look for as scouts is the athleticism. How does the body move? How strong are they? Are they quick twitch? Are they slower twitch, but they're strong? The athleticism is a huge, huge factor when scouting players. And guys like we've talked about already, they jump off the page. It makes my job a lot easier. The guys that are athletes, tend to get better. It's just crazy how that works, right? So, the athleticism is a huge, huge part of scouting.
I want to kind of start off this because I think it's tough because parents, family members, all that we're emotionally invested in our children, and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's not going to change in that respect. You know that. There's no science to this, although we've created a lot of metric situations within scouting at this point that we can kind of look to and those types of things. But scouting, as far as looking at the next player, the next kid, how do you set yourself in that mindset? What are you looking for? What are maybe keys that help you start that process?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it depends on where they're at, physically. Is usually the first thing you're looking at. Are they 15 years old, 16 years old? Are they 18 years old? Are they a college player? But you kind of look at where they're at physically. Are they already big and strong? Have they started shaving yet? Little
Right.
cues like that. Because it's going to help you look into the crystal ball. I mean, that's essentially what we do as scouts is we're trying to look into a crystal ball and predict the future. So there are different characteristics and keys that over time you've learned, or I've learned, are predictors. They help predict the future. So yeah, like again, it starts with how old are they, and where are they at physical. Other thing has to, get back to the athleticism,
Mm-hmm.
how they move. Like a term that I use a lot is baby giraffe. We've all seen those videos of the baby giraffe kind of, frolicking. So you see a young kid and maybe he's 15, maybe he's 17, but he's grown into his body, and he's not very strong yet, but you see big hands or big feet or, these features, and they just don't know how to move yet. The coordination isn't there yet. And so that's something else that we try and look into as well. And, it's different strokes for different folks. People mature at different paces. I've got a soon to be third grader who's 9, and I tell parents all the time, usually the best 7-year-old is not going to be the best 17-year-old, but doesn't mean that the best 7-year-old is not going to be the best 17-year-old. It really varies. And it's such an individual thing, and it's case by case, basis.
I remember watching. We got an opportunity because we work with Game 7 Baseball, and they had done this All-Star event in Southwest Missouri, Hammons Field. Well, the at the time the Rawlings Extreme came down to play this All-Star team at the Cardinals field there, and a young Brett Norfleet at 14U.
Oh wow, yeah.
Was there. We talked to him then. It's the first time I'd met him, but he was, you say the giraffe. He was that kid at that time at 14. Now look at him, freshman All-American. It's one of those things, right?
Oh, 1,000%. And again, he's a great example. Like this is kind of crazy to a certain extent, but I was watching ESPN or something the other day, and they had the Little League World Series come on. And this 12-year-old, 6'3", steps into the box, and he's already huge. And again, like maybe he's going to be 6'7", maybe he's going to be 6'3" the rest of his life. You don't know. But like watching the way his body moved and the swing, you're like, okay, like he's still learning at a very, very young age how his body is moving. And maybe his swing wasn't perfect, but again, it's not his fault. He's 12 years old. He's 6'3". So you talk about Norfleet, like at 14, again, like it probably stood out and jumped out to you, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier.
Absolutely, because that's what triggered my mind when you said that. Boom, there you
Yeah,
go. And I think it's tough as parents. Sometimes we're looking at our kid. My buddy Mitch, who from the Hitting Zone, who is a contributor, has the show The Hitting Zone here. We talk about these things all the time. And
yeah,
I'm this person that looks at the size of kids at 14U. You have the 5 foot kid that weighs a
yeah,
buck 10 at 14.
right,
And we're trying to fit them into a high school thought process, and they're physically not ready for it. And
right.
I think this is done all the time rather than allowing the athlete to get to where they need to be before we start putting them into a place where we think they should be. Would you agree with that?
1000%. And that's the thing. Like, and again, I think I just kind of hit on like different strokes for different folks. People are going to mature at different ages. Just because, let's just take that example. You're 5 foot, 120 pounds at 15 years old. You hit a growth spurt, and maybe this is not the direction you're looking for. But if you got the work ethic and the drive and the love, then be patient. Not everyone's
Yeah.
going to be 6'4", 210 at 16 years old. I can't think of his name right now. He was a prominent prospect, was drafted early last year. It might have been, gosh darn it, the kid from Florida, but he was a walk-on, and there are guys, the kid this year at Georgia, he was a walk-on and didn't have any offers out of high school. Like, it's amazing when I talk with these kids, especially at the collegiate level. I'm talking about more.
Yeah.
That I didn't have any offers out of high school. I had a couple junior colleges, which is great, or I had one D1 school that believed in me, and now all of a sudden I'm sitting here talking to scouts, and it's just such an individual basis, and you just never know. So, what I truly believe in is the work ethic, the drive, the passion, the love for the game. Your physicality is going to catch up eventually, so
Mhm.
don't get caught up in the moment, because again, especially at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, kids mature quicker. And so the bigger and stronger ones can hit the ball farther, throw the ball faster, which is great. It's awesome. But it doesn't mean they're going to be the best player in the end. So, it's such a case-by-case basis.
I got to do this though. I love my dog, Mitch. I'm not banging on him. It's not just, these are conversations we have. So Mitch, he'll come back on and go, nope, dude, you're wrong. So that's okay.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's what we do. But there, it goes to last night. We were talking before we started the segment. I told you I am a lifelong Dodger fan. I'm watching the Phillies and the Dodgers last night. There was the one guy. I wish I could remember his name. I can't remember his name, but I remember him. He had the long hair, come in relief late in the game, and the Dodger commentators were talking about him. This guy was not the best kid on his high school team. He's probably the third or fourth best pitcher. Got to a JC. Next thing led to another. Now he's pitching for the Phillies and pitching well.
Yeah. Was it Matt Strom?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So Strom, I just know that because he pitched for us for a little bit. I know the guy who scouted him and signed him with the Royals. And on that junior college, this is before I was back in the area, but I actually coached one of his junior college teammates in a summer league when I was still coaching collegiately. And there were 3 or 4 drafts off that junior college team. And the stories are that Stromy was like the least thought about. Like the other 2 were, the prospects. So again, like you just never know.
I think once it gets to, and you can maybe speak to this, this is just my thoughts. I believe this very much. Looking at the landscape of sport, especially at the highest level, when talent evens out, what's the separator? And I've always believed this. Then it becomes your mental ability. How are you able to be better than the next guy? Because physical talent, are there guys, there's small margins, a Shohei Ohtani. Well, okay. But it's small margins even at that, at the professional level. And so how do you put yourself in that place? And, those are intangibles. You can't see that, can you?
No, and that's the hardest part of our job, and that's what we get challenged the most by our bosses, and specifically our general manager in San Diego. Is we've got to get to know these kids because they're going to face adversity.
Yeah.
They're going to get into professional baseball, and there's going to be obstacles that they face, and we want guys that you have to rip the jersey off their chest. They're gonna do whatever it takes to make it, and that's the hardest part of the job. As much as you think you want to know, you try to know, you usually just don't. And to your point, the kid that's the best in high school, now he's in college, right? And there's other really good players, and now he's really good in college, and then he gets in professional baseball, and now there's really good players, and that's why guys in the 7th, 8th, 10th round make it to the big leagues, because maybe their evaluation on the field was what we call light, right? Like we thought, no, this is more of a 7th rounder than a 1st rounder, but he's a big leaguer. And then there's guys in the 1st and 2nd round that you're like, oh yeah, this kid's gonna be a big leaguer, he's gonna be really good, so on and so forth. He's got all the tools and all the skills, but there's something internal that disallows him to make it. And there's a term that I've grown to use over 10 years of doing this, is whatever his ceiling's going to be, he's going to reach it. And that's because of the work ethic. That's because of the drive, the passion. Some of the things we talk about, again, maybe he's going to be limited skill-wise, but he's going to reach that ceiling. And that's the hardest part of our job, is getting to know what's inside. And that's why it's important to talk with teachers and former coaches and teammates, and try and talk with as many people to get to know the type of person they are, and hey, explain to me what's some adversity you've been through, and they can talk you through it, or have you ever been through any adversity? No, I really haven't yet. Okay, it's no problem. What's going to happen the first time, hypothetically, you get punched in the mouth and you're 0 for 20 in low A? Are you gonna pout? Are you gonna wilt? Are you gonna have a strong chest and believe in yourself? So yeah, that's by far the hardest thing we do, but arguably the most important thing we do.
Yeah. We just had a couple guys drafted out of the state of Missouri. And I know you covered the surrounding states, but, specific to what we do, and it's around that, was I know there was some was there any high school guys out of Illinois?
Yeah, there were a couple this year.
I thought so.
I don't cover Illinois specifically.
That's
but,
right.
I think Sloan was an Illinois kid. Bagwell. There's a shortstop. There were several. Yeah.
So in your other areas that you cover, was there other high school kids that got drafted?
Yeah. Actually, this was my 10th draft. It was the best year in the area that I've seen. I've been back in the area for 8 years. The talent level this year was crazy. It was so much fun to scout the area. In Oklahoma, you had Cash Mayfield, who we took. You had Owen Hall, who Detroit took. Slade Caldwell out of Arkansas was a high draft pick. There's a kid here in Overland Park, Kansas, Eli Lovich, that was drafted and signed by the Cubs. Sissel, Trey Snyder, and there's several I'm probably missing. But this was the deepest I've seen the high school talent in my 4 states in doing this in a long time.
What do you think? The Midwest, we don't have, you have your Floridas, your Georgias, your Californias, Arizona, Texas, all that, southern states they can play. What do you attribute maybe the rise of this, the talent level and the things like that in the Midwest?
I just think that I think a lot of it has to do with technology and becoming bigger and stronger, and resources. There are more indoor facilities than ever. There are more pitching labs and pitching facilities than ever. There's just more opportunity for kids in cold weather states to continue to get better. Whereas in the past, and again, we'll probably outdate myself here, but 20, 25 years, let's just say, again, you had to be in a warm state where it's always sunny and it's always hot and you could play all year long. Whereas even like in the Northeast now, you look at where, Jackson Merrill came from, Anthony Volpe came from, there's just more resources for kids to continue to get better. And again, I'm going through it right now with a 3rd grader. I mean, heck, we start fall ball in a week, and we've got facilities here in Kansas City that we can go have practice, in August, and then be able to continue in the winter if that's what you want to do. Again, it's probably getting off tangent a little bit. You don't want to do too much at a younger age. It's the burnout and everything, and keep it fun and light. But I think to get back to your original question is there's just more resources for guys to continue to get better. And I think guys are taking advantage of it.
I agree. And I think that's one of the things, and these are always the questions, you go back and forth, people trying to weigh the good and the bad. And there's always going to be things that I think you always have to talk about. And I think it's interesting, here you are an area scout, and now you're going through that process with your own son. What is that? Where is there conflicts at times? Or if you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to answer,
No.
that's fine too. But I think it's an interesting perspective, Steve.
Well, it is. And it's something that, I think about a lot, as a dad and as a scout, and the last thing you want to do, like at the little league level, the youth level, as a coach or a parent, your job is you've accomplished your goal is if the 8-year-old wants to come back and play at 9. And the 9-year-old wants to come back and play at 10, and so on and so forth. And my son specifically has grown to love baseball organically the last couple of years. My wife was a heck of a college softball player. Obviously, with my background, I just always thought I'm not going to force it upon him. Right. And again, we're getting pretty specific here with my situation. But to watch like an organic love for the game grow has been really cool to see, and I think that's evident. You can go watch a Little League game or a 10U game, whatever the case may be, and there are kids out there that make a catch, and there's just joy. They're so excited, and it's so fun to see. And then there's, other times, this is sad to say, where you're like, man, that kid's out here because his parents or his aunt, whoever, want them to be there more so than the kid wants to be there. So again, like I look at it, and I want to be a facilitator. And I think this goes for all youth coaches. If the kid wants to do more, then that's our job to facilitate that. But it's also important to take a step back. Again, me specifically, you're still going to play football if you want to. But yes, we should play football. You want to play soccer? Play soccer. Gymnastics, basketball, golf, whatever other sport, tennis. You don't want to get burned out and do too much at a young age. So there's a fine line from my perspective specifically that, it's always positive, whether, for example, last night he swung and missed a bunch. We just went on vacation, man. It's okay. You're 8 years old. Like, it's okay. Like, have fun, and then we're taking ground balls and one of his teammates makes this great play and they're all excited. And like, that's what it's about at the youth level. And again, like I can't reiterate enough, our job as coaches, parents, scouts, whomever, like if the young kid wants to come back and play, then we've accomplished the goal. And the maturation and the skill level is going to change daily, weekly, yearly. So trying to keep a perspective is the hardest thing I've had to learn as a dad and a scout.
That's 100% right there, bud. Perspective. It's like you said, you have the 8-year-old, and we see this so many times. The player, he's crying going back to the dugout. There's no crying in baseball. But, it happens with 8-year-olds at times.
All the time. Yeah.
Because
trust me, I know.
and you just, it's like you said, it's okay you struck out. I mean, it happens, and getting them to understand that is part of the game of baseball is striking out. If you hit 600 even at 8 years old, that's pretty good.
It's incredible. Yeah. And that's again, that's kind of a life lesson that we try to teach my son and his friends, that it's going to happen. You're going to make errors. As long as you're trying your best, that's all we care about. Yeah. And unfortunately, I have seen firsthand other coaches and other parents not handle it that way. And I think it's kind of the state we're in with youth sports in general. Is it's going to happen. And again, like, you want to get specific. My second grade playing in a tournament this a couple months ago, and we made a bunch of errors in the 7th inning. Again, they're 8, and we end up losing the championship game. It happens. You know what? But we were proud of the boys. And if you look at the baseball side of things, hey, if we field that ground ball, we make it out, we probably raising the banner. But it doesn't happen, and it's okay. And again, I just think it's so important to have the perspective that mistakes are going to happen. You're going to make outs. You're going to hit a line drive right at somebody. You're going to catch it. The game's hard, and that's why it's so important to understand it's a game. It's supposed to be fun, and you're supposed to be with your buddies, and it's okay to fail.
That's we talk about perspective, values, and whatnot with Youth Baseball Midwest all the time, and these are the things that we want to look at a long term. And as you're here, and I think this is a great perspective because, regardless of what we'd like to think, sometimes we see a gentleman like yourself. You're a scout for the San Diego Padres, and everybody goes, "Oh," but it's still we're just people. We're dads too with our kids and things like that. So holding those perspectives and understanding that these are the things that we have to make sure that we let's just dial that down a bit. It's okay if we lost the championship. And if you didn't win a championship all year, did you get better?
Exactly. That's such a good point. And that's part of, kind of what we've talked about at this point is facilitating, having the resources and understand there's a process to everything. And it's great when you go 4 for 4. It's awesome. It's great when you strike somebody out. It's great. But when those things don't happen, it's okay. And why is it okay? Are you getting better? Are you learning from that? Are you understanding that, oh man, like there's a runner at second base and I'm playing center field and a ground ball's hit and, we miss our cutoff man. And now that hitter gets to second base and you just learning the game and shoot, man, at 8 years old or 28 years old, you're still learning and there's still going to be things that come up that you have to learn from. And it's just learning from your mistakes and how to minimize those mistakes at the end of the day. And it's just, there's just a process. And baseball is that skills and tools game that it comes at different times. And I just can't reiterate enough that failure is going to happen and it's okay. We're going to learn from it. We're going to get better, but we're going to have fun. And that's at the end of the day, what we're trying to do.
We started this last year and we're going to come back to doing this because I think, you get the crossover, a lot of the series teams up top, they have coaches that are, outside of dads, but youth baseball is dad coaches. Some dads are like yourself with experience, played the game, your wife, a great understanding of the game. Those are few sometimes and far between. But then there's dads that are invested in wanting to help the kids get better. And I think it's something we started. We did dad's coaching clinics. And we had Coach Mason Horn from CBC. We had Coach Tim Canavan from DeSmet, Coach Darren Sissel, and Coach Perkins from Francis Howell all came and gave their time to talk to these dads and talk to them about how to set practice plans, develop a practice, what's important, and these guys were taking up. I think those are the things that we have to do a little bit more in youth baseball to create better opportunities for the kids to get better, correct?
1,000%. And honestly, this is my take. Again, if you want to go play 100 games at 9 years old, I think you're crazy, but more power to you. Maybe that is what is the, again, I'm not trying to judge. It's just not how I would. So I think practice is more important than the games, especially at a young age. And that's something that we, again, as scouts and coaches and people in the baseball community need to do a better job of doing what you're talking about is relaying that message and having a practice plan and not just showing up and, catch is very important. Playing catch is very important. So whether you're 6 or 16, when you show up to practice and you play catch, focus, concentrate, pay attention to what you're doing. You get into practice. We're going to have a plan of attack. We're going to have break up into small groups and we're going to work on defensive stuff individually. And then maybe we go into team stuff and then we're going to work on, situational awareness and walk through different things. But the practice is as important, and again, probably in my opinion, more important than the games, especially at a really young level, because that's where you get better. This is the reps over and over. I mean, you've been around 9U, 10U baseball, and Johnny can't throw strikes, and then there's Billy out in left field picking dandelions. Like, I don't blame you. It's boring right now, Like, I hear you, man. So it's what you control, what you can control. And yeah, that's something that again, specifically for me right now, I'm going through as a dad. That practice is more important than the games, because that's where you get your reps, and that's where you probably get better.
You hear that from a lot of high school coaches.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
There's a specific prospect who's only a junior this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known him for a long, long time. I've known his dad for a long time. And his dad is a baseball guy through and through. And, his son didn't play an organized game until he was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And can you imagine, like, especially in today's culture, like, here, you didn't play a game until you're 10 years old? And this kid is stud, like an absolute great. And he's mature. He's advanced, because from 6 to 10, he was working on the fundamentals, ground balls, swinging in off the tee, fine-tuning his skills. And then it carried over when he was 11 and 12 years old. And he's not the most athletic. He's not the quickest twitch kid out there, but he's a hell of a baseball player now. And again, different strokes for different folks. This is the route he took. This is the plane he took. Again, I hate Twitter, but there's a group that that I follow, and 6U going to Dallas and playing 9 games this weekend. It's like, okay, well, that's great. If they have fun doing it, fine.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to bet by 12, 13, 14 years old, that's not going to be something that's sustainable.
It's not.
It is. Yeah, And so, practice is important in the games.
One of the things that was always striking to me, coaching some that I did, don't claim to be some great guru or anything, but if you've played athletics, you understand modeling, coaching. I love it, the instructing part of it. I've always have.
Yeah.
And when you had the little kids, you used to play the game knockout. Into the practice, a little competitive thing. It was always fun. Kids liked it and whatnot. And you'd have the one kid that caught everything, whatnot, getting a game and booting the ball everywhere and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I always used to think, how do I get to that kid? Because that's a mental thing. It wasn't physical. It's not physical.
Right.
And how do you bring that to bear in a mind that young to where they understand what's at stake? Because it's just a matter of focus. And how do you get a 10-year-old to understand that he has to think at a level that every time the ball is pitched, the ball's going to get hit to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what you're dealing with at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
There's kids in high school that struggle with that.
1,000%.
And the ability to focus your intent, and I love what you said, to focus at that level, because that's why errors happen more at the younger levels. And you have those, everybody goes, why do we have that bad inning? Well, they're 11 and they don't know how to focus at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And that's the hardest part about our game in baseball, to teach at a young, because there's some slower paced thing. Basketball, you're always running up and down the court, right? There's always playing defense, playing offense. Even football, it's not as quick as basketball, but there's plays and you're involved, and it goes. And baseball is a team game, but there's so many individual moments, and I mean that's the hardest part. And to your point, whether you're 8, there's 17-year-olds that I see happen that you can hit them 100 ground balls with a fungo at practice, and they look good and they can field it. But what happens when the lights are on and the game starts moving? And that's part of the maturation process, and that's part of the hard part of baseball, is being locked in every single pitch. And I spent 1 year coaching professionally in the minor leagues, and that was you watch some kids that were drafted earlier, and you watch their professional approach was advanced compared to some of the kids that hadn't been playing professionally as long. They were played collegiately, and so there's more of a professional approach that they learn at a younger age. So you take that same idea and move it to 10-year-olds. There's some kids that have practiced more, and can now take what they learned in practice and apply it in the game. and there's others that just haven't yet, and doesn't mean that they're not going to, but it's by far the hardest thing to instill.
I want to shift to this last topic here, finishing up, and I know we're covering a lot of ground, and I hope we can get you back and talk some more baseball. But just in this one aspect, just kind of cover some base roots of things, Steve. You know, as we said, the metrics are playing a big role in what we do and how kids develop and things of that nature. And we met at a PBR event and we were talking about some of these things. How do you, you know, and I'm sure you see a lot of kids all the time at events and things. How do you help them keep things in perspective? And what is the thought process in setting goals? How do you help these kids understand that thought process?
Well, I think that's the main point, setting goals, and there is a process. You know, the metric side of things has grown the game. There's no denying it, and that's good. It's great for the game to understand that, you know, this is how I can develop a pitch, and really, you know, fast forwarding to pitch design specifically. You know, if I hold the baseball a certain way, now maybe I create a different type of spin and does something different to the ball, so it improves this pitch, or I change this pitch. That's a very specific example. But to understand that the metrics, it's not everything. A lot of it has to do with what we talked about earlier. You know, what's in here, and how are you going to handle the adversity, the outside noise, and, you know, trying to make it, whether you're trying to make your high school team, whether you're trying to get recruited by a college or signed by a scout. There is a process, and the metric side of things, if you don't fully understand how to apply it, then what are we doing? You know, I mean, just because my bat swing velocity is X doesn't mean I'm a good hitter. Now, do we want better bat speed? Of course we do. Why? Well, we can go on and on about that later on. Do we want maybe a better spin rate? Again, it's just an idea. Sure. Why? Because it does something to the baseball that might help the pitch improve. But just because I spin a curveball at 3,000 RPMs, if I can't throw a strike and I can't locate it, who cares? You know, to be honest with you. So, you know, again, if I throw 97, but it's all over the place, who cares? If I can hit a ball 500 feet at 5 o'clock, which is, you know, I call 5 o'clock hit or BP time, wonderful. But if I can't make an adjustment in game at bat to bat, understand what this pitcher is trying to do to get me out, then it doesn't matter. You still have to perform on the field. You still have to throw strikes. You still have to execute your game plan in the box. And, you know, I was covering a professional game 7 or 8 years ago, and they were talking, this young kid was talking about, an intern for this team was talking about all these metrics. And I don't know specifically, to this day, don't know who the person he was sitting with, but had a title with his team, whether it was farm director, field coordinator, I'm not sure. But he just stopped and he said, "That's wonderful. I'm glad you got all this data. But if you know, Steve over here, who's in rookie ball, doesn't understand what the swing plane means and can't apply it to get better, what are we doing? Who cares?" So now it comes into having too much information. You know, you don't want to have too much. So and we're still learning. You know, especially with the resources we talked about at a younger age, guys with different sensors at 15, 16 years old on their bats. Like, it's all fine and dandy once you learn how to apply it. And if you can apply it to help you get better, now we're cooking. So my biggest recommendation is verse yourself with the metrics, understand what they mean, and then you can apply it. But if you can't apply it, then it doesn't matter. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for. But
absolutely. Because, you know, these are things that apply in my own faith and who I am as a person. And my dad had set some things in motion, and I use it today. I used it coaching. I brought this to kids in the 15 because it was power plus attitude equals your performance. Okay. Mm-hmm. And power, of course, we know knowledge, but I love that part of it, and that you can't leave that out of the equation, the application of knowledge. If I send you out there with all this knowledge, but you can't apply it in game, it's of no value to you. And it really, that's because, and I used to say this to kids, look, if we can't execute this, then we will be executed. I know that sounds
That's right.
harsh, but that's the
Right.
sport. That's competition, because the other team is working to execute at a level the same way. So I think the metric part, I love it. I love the analytics. I look at
Yeah.
these things all the time. I check out what's going on, because you're in space. You always can't see a kid play. And so you're looking at, he's got his hand speeds 24.8. That's pretty impressive.
Right.
If you can so that means your bat head's getting through the zone faster and quicker than others. And so evidently we're going to have a better exit velocity. Those are
Sure.
things that are just a normal thought process. But as you said, swing plane. But if I'm swinging and missing all the time, that doesn't matter at all.
If let's take those exact metrics, and you can swing the bat fast, and you go, well, it's great, but can you hit a 1-2 slider? Can you hit a 2-2 changeup? Can you manipulate the barrel and get the barrel to the ball? And those are the things that we as scouts and coaches, that's our job. Yeah, you can read all these things and put it on paper. It's great, but that's why it's so important to watch the game. And now we've got to be able to apply it. And again, that's great. You can hit a ball really far in BP when you know where the ball is going to be. But when you've got a 91-mile-an-hour slider coming at you at 2-2, can you get the barrel to the ball? Or even at 10 years old, hey, that umpire just called a strike this far off the plate. Well, he should, first of all. Good for the umpire, right? But now it's like, instead of being 3-1, we're 2-2. Now we go into a different approach. And there's just so many things that can snowball from not being able to apply.
Absolutely. So I always think these are the things, and I love the aspect coming from a gentleman in your position, not because you're some wiser than everybody. Everybody goes, oh, he must. Right. No, but you've set yourself to, and you're in the business of this, so you are applying this information. You have to, or else you wouldn't have a job.
That's exactly right, and that's why, again, not to get on a tangent or something like that, but that's why, being in the ballpark, talking about scouting specifically, and watching how kids react, and watching it in real time can tell you so much more than just saying, okay, well, I can get a print off from TrackMan or Rapsodo or whatever, Yak Attack, whatever is out there. Okay, well, this kid was 90 to 95, and the spin rate's this, and the strike percentage is this. Great. But how did he react in adversity? Did he make a really good 2-2 pitch with runners on first and second to get a ground ball to get out of the inning? What? I'm at University of Arkansas, and it's against Florida, let's just say, and tough call, tough pitch. Now instead of, again, being 3-1, you're 2-2, and instead of hanging his head and pouting, he gets back in the box, resets, and maybe he strikes out. But the approach, the plan, the attitude, the mental part of things was there to succeed. He just didn't succeed in that one at bat, and that's why he can't tell you everything. And again, maybe that umpire's zone is big that day, and he's put himself in worse hitting counts. Well, that's something he can't control necessarily. Again, we're probably getting off the subject a little bit.
No,
that's why the application and watching and trying to get to know what's inside, and how they handle the adversity is just as important.
I think that's exactly the subject, because I'm going to take this. I loved what you said. It's perfect, because we're not taking what you just said and applying it at 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Right.
And because we see youth baseball all the time. And there's a lot of parents doing it right, a lot of teams doing it, but there's still a lot of this stuff. We have to tone it down. Winning at this age level is not the end all be all. Getting better is. If
Exactly.
Let the result be a consequence of getting better.
1000%. Could not agree more. And that's, again, I'm living that. I'm living that to this day with my son and his friends, and getting around other friends of mine with sons that are maybe 10, 11, 12. Winning's not everything right now. It's great. It's fun. I get it. We want to. But if you don't, it's okay. There's a process. Are you getting better? Are you learning to love the game? And that's what I think at the end of the day is our biggest, most important job. learn to love the game. Learn that, hey, you know what, man, I was 0 for 3, and I came up in the 7th inning. I've struck out 3 times. I came up in the 7th inning. I got the hit to win the game. Again, winning. But it's about the process. You didn't sulk. You didn't, hang your head. And you came up at the end and you came through. That's the important part. Or even, hey, I was 0 for 2 in the 5th inning. There's a runner at third base, 1 out, and we're down by 1. And I put a ball in play, and I got that run in. That's what we're looking for. Now, we might have lost the game, but you look back at the process of the game in the 4th, 5th inning, whatever the case may be, and you execute. That's awesome. That should be just as important as hitting a home run, getting a ring, whatever the case you may want, whatever you want to say, especially at the youth levels.
That's what your high school coach wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to see. I mean, it's true. Like, no doubt. That's what they want to see. Yep.
Because I think, when the results start to matter is when you get into high school and you start playing for conference titles, you start playing for district titles, you start playing for your school and the people that a state title, and you have the opportunities for those things, and then that works itself out. I really do. If you set these other things in place, because nobody guarantees a win. You can't guarantee wins anywhere. Nobody can guarantee you win. All you can really do is guarantee somebody an opportunity if you put yourself in the right places, in the right mindset, and set those parameters in the positive scenarios. You have opportunities. And that's really all you want. Steve, when you talk to a young man, you see that you're talking to him because he's put himself in that place for the opportunity, correct?
Yeah. I'm talking with a young man. Let's take a high school player, for example, at 17 years old. I'm talking with him not because he's won 4 state championships or he's won 3 summer ball state championships, right? Like, that's cool. That's awesome. But there are a lot of kids that I talk with that have never done that before. But what have they done? They have skills. They've got tools. They're high character kids. They put themselves in an opportunity to be scouted or recruited, and it has nothing to do with at 10U baseball they won a AAA major tournament. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, again, like, that's just the truth of the thing. Like, yeah, if you grow up winning all the time, that's great. And again, I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But again, like when I'm talking with a young man, it's not, hey, remember when you were 13 and you were playing at Lake Point or wherever, you won that championship? No, that never comes up. It's you put yourself in a situation to be scouted, to be recruited, and that's because of your work ethic, your baseball talent, not because you've gone out and won all these tournaments at 10 years old.
I love that. And I appreciate Steve coming on and hope to have him back and talk specific about certain things. We will, because the winter's here. Might as well. We ain't got nothing else to do, right? Yeah.
I trust me. And you say that, like, I leave for Long Beach tomorrow, and then I get back, and then there's, the fall season starts in Oklahoma. Yep. So, there's prospects at small schools. So I'll be, probably watching them. There's a scout day at a junior college on the 16th. And then once after the holiday in September, the colleges start rolling again. So it's a never ending process. But again, it's the best job on the face of the earth. And yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and I can talk. So whenever you guys want, man, just let me know.
Absolutely. So. We appreciate Steve coming on. Steve, best of luck to you. Continued success, and we will definitely love to have. I love these kind of conversations because we need more perspective from gentlemen like yourself who are in the game in that way, so that parents understand the processes, and we're just trying to help. I'm a solutions kind of guy. There's got to be, everybody like I said, we're all emotionally invested. We're all emotionally invested in our children. We want the best for them. We want them to succeed. And so, but keeping perspective and making sure we're doing it the right way, I think is absolutely the way we got to go.
I agree.
Folks, thanks for tuning. Look, if you like what you see here, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button for more stuff like this. You hit that dinger next to it. It doesn't get you a home run, but it does get you notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. So we hit a lot of dingers. That's the way we roll. But like, share it out with your friends. We appreciate that very much. You can see all the socials there. We appreciate you guys following us. Tag us if you got something that you want to show off. We have fun with that kind of thing. We'll be out. Remember, we'll be out at the ABC Ballpark for the Cops versus Kids 4th Annual Home Run Derby. St. Louis Youth Sports Outreach. It's just fun. We're going to have a great time. We got the defending champ coming back, Ella Smith, Liberty High School over here in Winsville. She can hit some dingers, boy. That girl can swing the bat. So we're looking forward to it. We'll keep you up to date on that. And again, a thank you to our guest, Steve Moritz. Appreciate you taking the time from the San Diego Padres.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. Hitters, got some advice for hitters, Steve?
For hitters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Advice for hitters.
Have fun, relax, and trust yourself. That's the most important thing. Relax and have fun, and that's what will happen for you.
I love it. That's good stuff. We'll see y'all next time.